Hi, this is A New Nigeria with Wale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine the strategic issues bedeviling Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer simple, bold, but audacious ideas on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. On today's episode of the program, we'll be examining what I've titled Restoring Life and Value to the Naira. Now, a currency's strength is determined by the interaction of a variety of strategic factors, both local and international, that we shall analyze and evaluate today. Now, so what do governments of countries do to ensure their currencies remain strong and attractive to their citizens and it is respected globally? What is the role of the central bank in this? And what must citizens do and what must they not do? These are some of the issues we're examining today. We'll take this short break, and when I return, I'll get into the conversation with my guest. Please stay with us. Welcome back. My guest today is Dr. Nnaemeka Obiareri. He's an investment banker and a development expert. Welcome this morning, Doctor. You're welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Doc, let's get right into this. So we're examining today restoring life and value to the Naira. Doc, you can see these historical trends in the value of the Naira versus the US dollars from 1980s to 2024 currently. So if you look at this, Doc, you can see in 1980, Nigerian Naira was exchanging at 0.55 kobo to the US dollars. And then the depreciation were marginal year on year. 67 kobo in 1982, 76 in 84, 89 kobo in 85. And, you know, it just continued, like I said, marginal depreciation year on year. It wasn't until year 2000 that the Naira depreciated to 100 Naira threshold. And then this depreciation also further continued, you know, marginal depreciation year on year until 2016, when there was a sudden spike. It didn't even, you know, stop at 200, 305. And then from there on, 2024 now, at some point in this February, it was 1,800 to a US dollars. But now I think it's come down to maybe 1,006. What do you say to this, Doc? What's your, what do you have to say?
Okay, like I said, I have a historical trend that even dates back 1960.
Yeah, please go ahead.
If you look at the historical trend from 1960 to 1966,
yeah,
it was very constant.
Okay.
0.6 Nigerian pound sterling to 1 US dollar.
Okay.
Constant, very stable.
Very stable.
From 1972 to 1980, stable. In fact, it was the same 0.6 till even to 1978, when even the Naira gained over the dollar. It became 0.55 kobo to $1. The depreciation started from 1985, massive depreciation started from 1985 under the 1983 under the Buhari Idiagbon regime. And if you look at historically, you see clearly that why we had stable currency was because Nigeria was productive during those periods between 1960 to 1966. We had the granite pyramid of the north, the cotton, the textile. We had the cocoa of the west. We had the coal and the palm oil of the old eastern Nigeria and the middle belt. There was competition. Governance was very lean. We had the best of minds in the political system. People like Sir Louis Odumegwu, reputed to be the wealthiest man in Africa, a parliamentarian, chairman of the state corporation. So we had men who had gusto, who had guts, who had intelligence, who had means, not men who went to power to seek for what they would eat. Perks of office was aligned that of the civil service. And the parliamentarians were farmers. They were men that had things they were doing in the private sector. So we had a productive economy that was producing more than we were consuming. And so we had a stable currency. Basically, what we have seen shows us clearly that if we want to get our economic stride right, we need to go back to the 1963 constitutional framework.
Fantastic. And I must also add to what you said is so correct, brilliant observation. I must also add that, I mean, our economy then, the economic mainstay of Nigeria from the 50s, up until 66, before the military intervened, was purely agriculture, agrarian.
Yeah.
All
Yes.
this big stuff we're doing, the GDP grew at such phenomenal, rates of growth, comparable to, all these other Western powers. And it was purely, because we're exporting, cash crops, cocoa, groundnuts, cassava, maize, and all what I see your point, and well taken. Doc, still, let's spend a few more minutes on this issue of how we got to where we are, where, the NAIRA, I used the term how Nigerians killed the NAIRA. This is not, maybe the contribution of our import receipts is probably just 30% of the crisis or the forces or factors responsible for the, erosion in the value of the NAIRA. But can you explain to viewers, Doctor, why Nigeria, a crude oil producing nation, since 1958 we've been producing crude oil and exporting same, why are we still importing why are we importing petroleum products and lubricants? Why are we importing plastics? Why is Nigeria importing foods? Why is Nigeria importing, fashion, including, used clothes? Can you speak to that briefly, Doc?
You see clearly, we are still importing $24 billion worth of minerals, refined petroleum products, and synthetics, after wasting 16 trillion naira over the last 8 years by way of failed underground maintenance program and the subsidies payment. That is $34 billion down the drain. The refineries are not working. And it will interest you that between 1973 to 1986, the military boys that we even lampooned built all the refineries that we have in Nigeria. The only refinery that was built before the Civil War was built by the Tafawa Balewa government. But between Yakubu Gowon, Olusegun Obasanjo, and Babangida, they built 3 brand new refineries.
Absolutely.
These are refineries that we could not maintain over the last 23 years. It should be worrisome. So basically, the issue of plastic, the raw material for producing plastic is mainly hydrocarbons. It's because we are not refining anything in Nigeria. We are not getting byproducts to do plastics. Look at food. Before 1966, from 1996, we are producing more and exporting more. In fact, I'll give you an example. As at 1965, Nigeria controlled 45% of the global crude palm oil market supply. Today, that market is $72 billion sized. If we had maintained our control of that market to the level we had in 1965, when the economy was productive, we would have been exporting nothing less than $38 billion worth of crude palm oil. Nigeria has no business importing $5 billion worth of food. Nigeria has no business importing mineral oil and refined fuel product of 24 billion. We have solutions to this, and we have shared these solutions with them. It's very simple.
Doc, let me advert your mind to this. Look at vehicles. We're importing 3.27 billion as of 2022. These are 2022 import, bill. We used to have Leyland in Ibadan, Leyland Motors. We used to have Steyr. We used to have Anamco in Anambra. We used to have Peugeot in Kaduna. We used to have Volkswagen. In fact, I think much further, in the days, in the early 80s. I think Pat told me what used to be a staff of Volkswagen. So why is Nigeria the dumping ground for used vehicles? Does it make sense that Nigerian students, are going to study in Benin Republic, in Togo, in Sudan, in Malaysia, in Cyprus? Least of all, Ukraine and all these other places. Does it make sense to you? How well, we cannot build anything, we cannot manage anything, Doctor?
It does not make any sense. And of course, those in the political office have refused to fund social investments. The only state in Nigeria today, the only 2 states in Nigeria that have dedicated so much of their revenues, of their expenditure to education and health is Abia State and Enugu State. Enugu State has education per capita of 37,000 naira. Abia has 33. And then unfortunately, Anambra, that has a professor as governor, has education per capita of 6,000 naira. Imo 7,000, which is very unfortunate.
I think that's debatable, because I think Oyo State's recent budget, I think budgeted well over 30%, if I'm not mistaken, in that figure for education. But go ahead anyway. Like I said, it's arguable. You can argue it, but just go ahead.
I think that if it is so, I'm working on the record that within my purview. Yes. Basically, if we actually want to stop this trend, we need to dedicate at least 25%
Absolutely.
education.
That's the UNESCO threshold.
Health.
That's the UNESCO minimum threshold.
Globally, we have some of the best doctors in the world. In fact, I was privileged to speak to the class 82, graduate class 82 of University of Ibadan, medical doctors. And these guys have extensive experience. 80% of them worked in the UK, in the US, and they are willing to partner with the government to set up world-class medical centers under a PPP framework. And this, if we have such in every region in Nigeria, the 2 billion we waste every year on medical tourism will be eliminated.
Absolutely.
On education, if we fund our education system in Nigeria, there is a model that Malaysia has, and that is a model we may like to emulate. Most UK universities have outposts in Malaysia.
Absolutely.
The same curriculum, they get certificates that are issued by the UK universities because they come to do their examination to know that they meet the UK educational requirements. Nigerian education system can also adopt such. If we have quality education in Nigeria, pay teachers well, pay doctors well, put in place the right support.
Now, Doc, what I want us to actually achieve today is solutions. There was a time in this country where we didn't need visas to go to the UK or any part of the Western world. And our currency, was even stronger than their currency. Now, I believe, Nigeria's renaissance is going to be based or hinged on two levels, what I've termed phase 1 and phase 2. Now, in phase 1, we need to attain food security or food sufficiency. Do you think we can achieve anything, industrialization or even self-sufficiency, without energy sufficiency? And take this on board also as your answer. Are you convinced by the actions or the policies of this present government in making electricity available in sufficient quantity?
I am not convinced one bit. The same way the last government wasted 8 years without doing anything. Egypt, in 4 years, under Sisi, made investments in power generation that gave them 20,000 megawatts of electricity. Generation, transmission, distribution, in 5 years. So I don't know why it's become a skyrocket science for Nigerians to do the same thing. So basically, what we should be looking at now is how do we ramp up generation? How do we unbundle the transmission network into 6 regions? How do we improve on transmission? And how do we improve on distribution? And how do we also improve on the feedstock? Gas is in abundance in Nigeria. Now,
something I needed to add is that look at the vast expanse of land in the north. In addition to the heat, it's the height of heat season, in the northern part of Nigeria now. The heat is roasting, actually. So can you explain why, in 30 seconds, Doc, why we do not have solar plants all over, the northern part of Nigeria? Because in Morocco, you talked on Egypt. Egypt actually added 31,000 megawatts in 5 years. Morocco built the Kazazate power plant, 510 megawatts, between 2013 and 2018 in 3 phases. Phase 1 in 3 years, 2013, 2016, and then from 2016, phases 2 and 3 completed 2018. Here in Nigeria, we have the hydropower, Mambila hydropower, moribund, abandoned. We have all sorts of NIPP projects, IPP projects all over the place, and we're still grappling with 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts, after almost $25 billion has been expended. What do you say to, because I know, yes, energy, I didn't focus on governors because you and I know energy development is a long-term project. But the federal government has got all these, plans. What they can do, I don't know if you agree with me, wherever those plants are located, can't you enter into an MOU with the state governors, seed them to the governors, because these governors have so much money and they're not doing anything. What do you think? 30 seconds, Doc, so that we can make progress.
30 seconds will not be enough, but I'll give it a try.
Please try.
In 2019, I was privileged to speak to the PDP Governors Forum in the North, and I told them clearly, if you decide today to go under a private-public partnership arrangement, set up clusters of at least 100 hectares, 100,000 hectares in your state, agro clusters, you have solar power energy inside it. You will drill boreholes there.
Absolutely.
You will have clusters of date palm plantations where you can do your legumes, your tomatoes, your onions. You will have agro-pastoral arrangement where the pastoralists can keep their cows and then, provide dairy and then use the dungs of the animals to fertilize the farm under a biodiversity arrangement. I gave them a clear roadmap on how they can even have agro rangers in every cluster that can help them to raise 25,000.
But what was the feedback? What was the response you got from them?
They are not thinking creatively. That is the feedback. Because I did the numbers. I even told them they don't even need to touch their fac and jack. We have development funds that can fund this thing. It's a project that can self-liquidate, self-finance, and self-liquidate itself. A project that can get about $38 billion annually from the agro value chain.
Okay, Doc, let's take this short break, then we'll continue. Let's take this short break. I'll allow you to continue from where you stop. We'll take this short break now. Yeah. So we'll take this short break, and when I return, we'll continue with the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Doc, the reason why this slide is here, you were talking about your presentation, your interface with the governors. Now, for ease of presentation, I didn't use the 36 states. I condensed it to the 6 regions. Nigeria is so thoroughly blessed, so abundantly blessed by the Almighty God. Why this country is in the quagmire it is in continues to be a Guinness Book of Records, on monumental leadership failure. I mean, if the other 5 zones did not have any, 5 regions did not have anything, and all we depended on was just the wealth from the south-south, or southwest or southeast, it is enough to make this country a great nation. But check out the resources. Crude oil in most parts, livestock, mineral resources. All the regions have mineral resources. Almost 4 of the 6 regions have oil and gas in huge deposits. Now, let me shock you, Doctor. In preparing for this, Nigeria has got 850 kilometers coastline, with states like Ogun State, Lagos State, you have Edo, you have Delta, you have Rivers, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, Cross River. 850 kilometers of coastal line. Now, why is that important? These states, border the Atlantic Ocean. China earned $26 billion on fisheries revenue exports. Japan had $23 billion on fisheries revenue. Norway earned $10 billion on fisheries. What is responsible for Nigeria not earning huge revenues from not just agriculture, but fisheries? And then look at all these other mineral resources. Look at livestock, look at cash crops, cocoa, and all of that. Can you speak to why we're so irresponsibly, backward in leadership, Doc, for 2 minutes?
We are irresponsibly backward in leadership because of the current constitutional framework, the current physical framework, the current socio-economic framework.
Because it encourages indolence.
Yes, so if we restructure Nigeria today back to the 63 constitutional framework, where we will have the states or regions, custodial units controlling 50% of whatever they produce, pay 30 to the national port, and then the federal government will control 20, and remove most of the items in the exclusive list: airport, seaport, railway, roads to the regions and the states. I will bet you in the next 10 years, you will not recognize Nigeria again.
You said once we go back to parliamentary, I'm afraid of what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie termed the tyranny of the single story. Even if you go back to parliamentary or whatever, because we're parliamentary before we adopted presidential system in 1979, there were issues with the parliamentary system. But where I'm going is that, is it just about changing systems? What about the quality of the personnel? If we continue a system that throws up the worst set of leadership cadre, I'm talking about merit, what do you think? We can have whatever system, if you keep throwing up your worst cadre of leadership, who have no patriotism, who have no skills, no hunger, no vision. What do you think?
Like I said, we are not adopting. When we said we adopt with some modification. In the 1963 Constitution, there was no provision for rotational leadership. It's something we will have to put in place to protect such kind of thing happening. The problem we have is leadership, and that leadership problem is founded on the criminal and fraudulent constitutional framework that we have, that only breeds people that know how to grab and run with power and don't know what to do.
Brilliant. Doc, let's round up now. We're talking about mismanagement of the economy, the erosion in the value of the naira as against the dollar. Look at these sovereign wealth funds of different countries Interestingly, Singapore does not have any natural resources, yet it has built up over $1 trillion of sovereign wealth fund. Look at the dates when these sovereign wealth funds were incepted: 1990, 81, 52, 53. Now, Nigeria joined OPEC 1971, so we knew about this. We didn't join OPEC, we didn't set up ours, sovereign wealth fund, until 2011 under Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, and then we only put $2 billion. We have earned $2 trillion since 1958, but we have nothing. If we have a robust sovereign wealth fund, say 200 billion or 500 billion, you and I agree that the Naira will not be so parlous in its value. Yes, you agree with me, I think. But that's not the question I want to ask you.
I totally agree with you.
But the question I want to ask you is that, should we not focus on, because the president has captured the National Assembly, apparently, obviously, but should that capture not be for the good governance, for good laws? And one of the laws is the constitutional amendment to ensure there is mandatory savings. Norway, Singapore, all these nations, when they earn money, they don't squander it, they don't share it, they save before they spend. So should we not amend our 1999 constitution to ensure there's mandatory savings, be it 20%, be it 30%, I favor 30%, and a gradual, increase until governors learn to live by whatever they generate. What do you think? 1 minute, so that we can deal with the other issue. 1 minute on this, Doc. What do you think?
I agree with you 110%.
Brilliant.
And even beyond that.
Brilliant.
Our pension fund regime. If you look at even these countries you mentioned, their pension fund assets to their GDP is almost about 75%.
Absolutely.
Nigeria's is about 5%.
Absolutely.
I work with a Swiss company that worked in the Chilean pension scheme. We approached PENCOM on how we can have legislative amendments on the current regime in such a way that within the next 10 years we can grow the pension fund assets of Nigeria to at least $200 billion. Till today,
you're not getting any feedback.
That issue.
Doc, let's make progress.
No
Next
feedback.
slide. Now, I read something you wrote and you sent to me on how the central bank should take over both the FAC, Federation Accounts Allocation Committee, and then the JAC, Joint Accounts Allocation Committee of States and Local Governments, because I think the pressure on the Naira is actually the irresponsible conduct of politically exposed persons who use Naira from, slush fund from FAC, to buy up dollars. What is those ideas you sent, you wrote, because even the federal government is clamping down on Binance, this cryptocurrency that there was 26 billion that could not be traced. Let's do this in 2 minutes so that we can round up. We're running out of time, Doc.
The clamp down on Binance is just chasing shadows. Binance is not the only cryptocurrency exchange.
What's the solution?
They will migrate to other platforms. Solution is very simple. Make sure that every account in the banking system must have the name, the BVN, and the TIN of the owner attached to it. Any account that does not have BVN, TIN, and name should be closed. The Central Bank of Nigeria should take over management of the FAC and the JAC of the states. They should domicile it with the Central Bank of Nigeria. And again, the anti-corruption, the CCB Act should have to be amended in such a way that in other crimes, you are innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
In financial crime, you are guilty until you prove your innocence, the source of fund that is legitimate. When we do this, put the whistleblowing act into play, enshrine it. If any Nigerian blows whistle to recovery, that will use the recovery of looted funds or assets, the person gets 20%. Let me tell you what will happen. Every banker, all the junior level bankers who help to transfer this money, move it from government fund to private account, will be blowing whistle anyhow. Everyone will become EFCC agents. Deterrence is the best form of anti-corruption fight. The Americans are not more honest than Nigerians, but they know that if they steal, they must
pay for it.
Be caught. If you have this, you know that it will be fertile and there is no way you will escape being arrested. When you steal, you will be deterred from doing it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. Then, Doc, finally, what's your view on nepotism? Advise President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, advise the governors, assembling a team to help them to translate their vision into reality.
Yes, it is the worst form of corruption. They should look at what Obasanjo did when he became president. There is no part of Nigeria that does not have quality human capital. Go out there and look for the best. And if you have aides and commissioners or ministers or MDA that can look you in the eye and tell you the truth.
Absolutely.
Just like Obasanjo confessed. He had people like Obia Ezekwesili, people like Okonjo-Iweala, people like El Rufai, that could argue with him and look him in the eye and say, hey, Commander-in-Chief, we don't agree with this. If you don't have people that can look in the eye, people like Prophet Micaiah, that will tell you, don't do this. If you do this, it will lead to this. Then if all you have around you are incompetent yes men who do not have targets, who are not passionate and patriotic, you end up destroying the country, destroying the economy, and putting your name in infamy. Obasanjo today is revered as the best leader that have governed Nigeria since 1999 by miles. Not because he's smarter than other presidents, but because he surrounded himself with competent men and women who could do their work and do it excellently, and look him in the eye and disagree with him on critical issues.
Doc. Brilliant. Doc, this is a continuing conversation. We've not even scratched the surface. So I promise you, you'll be a regular on this platform. This is a developmental platform. We don't do politics here like a hobby. You know, we're interested in growing this country, you know, getting the best brains, you know, to speak, to advise those in government who think they know it all. The best brains of Nigeria are actually outside of government. And we need to have people like you on this platform advising, you know, the leaders of Nigeria, their different tiers, on how to move this country so thoroughly blessed, but so badly, you know, governed. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Obi. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you very much.
Now, that's the program today. Before I close, you know, I want to say to anybody who is in policy or development or a former government official, this platform is for you. I don't bite people here. I just want us to have an engaging and thoroughly intellectual discussion on how to change the fortunes of this country for the better, for all our children and future generations. That's the objective. So reach out to me on my X handles. Now, this is the program today. Follow me on my various social media handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch this particular video and all the other videos that are there. Drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time. Remember, change requires action. Positive change requires positive action. I believe in a new Nigeria, and it is possible. Bye for now.